Switch chat room, take 1.
Are you someone who's naturally comfortable talking to people older than you, or do you find it a little intimidating?
Ooh, I find it a little intimidating sometimes.
I actually rather talk to people older than me.
I actually prefer talking to people older than me.
I am naturally comfortable talking to adults.
All right, guys. Are you naturally comfortable talking to adults, people older than you, or do you find it a little intimidating?
Personally, I love talking to people older than me. And it's not necessarily just like the age. It's just like the maturity level. Very mature person. So I just like the very mature level, just on the same level.
From a young age, my mom made it very important to me to be able to like talk to adults and feel comfortable about it. And so I feel like it's really easy for me.
For me, I actually get a little nervous
Yeah.
because I honestly don't know why. I just feel more comfortable talking to people my age.
Sure. Yeah, I'm going to poke on it a little bit. What do you think are some things that contribute to that fear of talking to adults, or even just like the difficulty of relating to someone not in the same stage of life as you?
It's just difficult for me to relate with them in a way because we are in like different stages of life. So,
Sure.
Yeah.
I feel like the best way that I like talk to somebody is relate to them.
Yeah.
And with like a different generation, it's hard, because you don't have a bunch in common.
Yeah.
Right.
It can maybe be awkward just because of like there is a big gap there, and it may feel hard to like find things to relate about, but sometimes I try to point out pieces that they enjoy talking about, like maybe I'll ask them about their family or whatever it is, and that somewhat makes it easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a very big difference, especially who you're talking to or maybe what the subject is about. And like I said, I love talking to people older than me and just maturity level, but sometimes I can get a little nervous. The older people have like a lot more wisdom. And like for me, sometimes it can be a little, I feel like they're going to pit something out there that I don't want to hear sometimes, or maybe, stuff like that maybe. That's what I'm thinking about.
Sure. What is something maybe really valuable, like a lesson that you learned from someone older than you in your life?
My grandpa always related the game of golf to life. It's the greatest comparison I've ever heard. And like still to this day, like I think about it all the time. Just because golf is so unpredictable. And I mean, you can go out there one day and it can be amazing and super fun and you play great. And then the next day, it's just the worst day you've ever had. And he's just always taught me that like it's unpredictable. And the only thing that you can like really manage is your attitude. Pay attention to the good days and the bad days and like just know where you're at.
Personal lesson for me, probably from one of my leaders, just like no matter what you're going through or what you're doing, is to keep pushing forward, keep going, never give up.
I think for me, my mom and my grandma, they always pushed the power of prayer. Whenever we would have like difficult seasons or anything, they were big prayer warriors. So
I'm going to ask you maybe a potentially obvious question, but how did you get to learn that thing from that person?
I think for me, it's just, like I said, going through those difficult seasons.
Yeah.
My parents are both divorced, so that was a really hard season for me. So going through that, my parents and my grandparents, they just both leaned into the power of prayer. So,
I mean, he's my grandpa, so and he lived 2 houses down from me, and so I was with him all the time. Just being able to grow up next to him, and we would go to the golf course almost every night, and he's taught me a lot of lessons over at that golf course.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, my leader, just whether we're volunteering or we may be in a little huddle or maybe doing something with other people, no matter the situation or maybe what you're going through, just to keep going. I mean, don't give up, and there's always an outcome.
For you guys, and maybe your mom taught you a great answer to this question, but what do you guys think would be like a good opening question to start a conversation with someone you might want to learn something from?
For me, it just depending on what this person does, like what I want to learn from them, what their specialty is, I guess, and what I want to take away from them.
Right.
But really, just like in ministry, my number one question is like, what's your whole purpose here, And like, what do you love so much about it?
Yeah.
And if you would do anything different, what would you have done?
Yeah. That's a great question.
For me, I think it would be, what is the hardest season you've been through?
Wow.
And what did you learn from it and take out of it?
Honestly, to me, it just depends on the situation. Just ask, because like most of the time they're so like ready to answer you. Like they really want to help you a lot of the time and really want to push you forward. So just according to the situation, whatever it is, like whatever question you have, you can ask. And most of the time they're really good about you know giving you a good answer, full of wisdom.
So good.
A question I do really enjoy asking people, there's two of them. I always like ask, how are you? But like, actually, how are you? Because I mean, I think that's a default question.
Right.
Like you could walk by somebody that you don't know and, how are you? And they're always going to say, I'm good. But like really stopping and asking that question, I think means a lot. And I actually want to know. I also like to ask people like, are you happy? I think that's always a good question to ask, because I think that's a conversation that needs to be talked about more.
Yeah.
I think also asking about like past mistakes, like, you know, because you can learn a lot from other people's mistakes.
So true. So really practical question. Say someone wants to just improve their conversational skills in general. What would you tell them?
This is something that I'm actually going through right now. One of my coworkers, she told me just to be unapologetically yourself. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to go through things, but just be yourself and just go with it.
Yeah.
To be yourself, you know, you obviously want to take away something from this person or maybe these conversations or someone important. I always want to be yourself. You want to make a connection there and just show the true self, you know. I think that's really important. Like, that's a very good thing, to just be yourself.
I would say just remind yourself that whoever you're talking to, they're a person too.
Yeah.
They understand, like they stumble and stuff like that. And most of the time, everyone understands that if you like stutter a couple of times in a sentence, then like they've done the same, and it's really not that big of a deal, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's good.
Yeah, I think it would be also good to like just reassure yourself and be as confident as you can, because I mean, just like you said, I mean, like we're all just people. Like there's no reason to feel the way that you do, because that person on the other side might feel the same way while they're talking to you.
Yeah.
What's something else maybe in your life that you were initially uncomfortable with, but you decided to push through that awkward phase?
Talking to people my age, definitely, because like, you know, it's really stressful, like to think like, oh, what are they thinking? Like usually with people older than me, like I remind myself, oh, I'm younger than them, like they're gonna understand. But like the other person, they're my age, like we're probably thinking the same things, and that can be like really stressful. But I've learned that, like I said, like we're just all people, and usually they're as stressed out as I am. So
Yeah.
Great answer.
I feel like just having conversations with people in general is a little nerve-wracking. So honestly, that's something I've been working through, just coming with the understanding that they're human too, and just learning more about their life, like actually like listening to their story and like learning and like deeply like trying to understand who they are.
So say you're getting to know Bo for the first time. What are some of the questions you're going to ask him? Are you going in hot with just like, what's your life story? Or tell me how you would start
Honestly,
that.
I would probably just go with, what's your life story? How'd you get here? What are you doing right now? You know?
Yeah. Cool.
Something that I'm still like working through the like awkward stage.
phase.
It's like with my job, like I have to market myself, like, and going in and getting a lot of no's as answers is very difficult, and like it's awkward. Like I don't like hearing no. Not because I want to hear yes all the time. It's just hard to hear.
Yeah.
right.
I think that's something that plays into this conversation as a whole, is just how do you handle rejection?
Right.
So I'm curious, like maybe that's an objection that people watching this video have right now. Like, well, why would I ever talk to someone my age, someone older than me, put myself out there, be myself, if someone could decide they don't like me?
No, yeah, that's terrifying. Like, especially if you have like a loud personality. I've been told like I have a loud personality, and you know that can sometimes be unlikable. And like to get like rejected it does hurt. But you know, you only live for an audience of one. Like you know, you're here to please God and God only. And so as long as you're living for Him, it doesn't really matter, you know?
It's good.
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, yeah, we're made in God's image, so you can't hate. I mean, you can't hate that. If you claim to love a God that made you in his image, then you can't hate yourself. So
Someone doesn't like you because you have an outstanding personality, or maybe you're a little quiet, you know? Who cares, you know? That's really my response to that is, who cares? And just move on from that, you know? Still love them, you still like them, but, you know, who cares if they don't like you?
There it is. We talked about having conversations with adults. We talked about the horror of talking to people our own actual age. And we talked about how to deal with rejection. Really good stuff, guys. Who is one adult who you think has a story you'd like to hear?
My great-great-grandfather.
my girlfriend's mom.
Probably my best friend and small group leader.
Somebody who's gone to the moon.
If you enjoyed this conversation about finding friends and handling rejection, you're going to want to check out the rest of our chat room playlist right here on Switch Youth.